lay down.
I just wasn't sure, so I wanted to make sure you weren't talking to us. But when you did the barking signal, I recognized that. But so Azul very, very obviously saw something or smelled something or heard something beyond the back wall of the fence. It goes into like a huge 30-acre field and hillside and whatnot, and it's just a hay field. So there's wildlife back there all the time. And I haven't really worked with a distraction marker very much. The only time I really pull out a distraction marker sound is like if I find myself saying, be easy, stop pulling too frequently, then we start to work with a distraction marker. So he very obviously saw something, was standing at the fence in his high alert phase. And I did the distraction marker, and I don't use it as a recall. I do it as a check in with me kind of thing. That's all I want. And he turned and looked at me. And I was so amazed that in that high, like he was, amped, ready to charge, but I don't think he actually saw what he wanted to, and he knew the fence was there. So he didn't want to charge through it, but he looked back at me. And then when I started praising him for it, and I'm just verbally, oh, good job, thank you, he turned around and recalled anyways. So something we totally haven't really trained in that way, and high excitement. I was pleased with that. I'm probably not, but
I have one with Nick today. We had a huge win. So you kind of have to go through this narrow space to get to my apartment. There's like a walkway that's fairly narrow. And then there's another side. Then there's the sidewalk that comes off into my apartment. And there's 2 apartments on that sidewalk. Typically, when somebody walks by and I have Nick on the sidewalk next to my apartment, I get a barking fit from him. Mm-hmm. And today the gardener walked by as I was trying to lock the door on the apartment. And Nick was oblivious and just ignored the fact that the gardener walked by. So that was a huge win for us.
Good. Well, I have a couple. Oops, looks like I marked my screen, but
you're talking, it's fine.
My nurse, she's just learned to come in and when and then Hodar's behind the gate, I have a little gate, and then so she just comes in, grabs a cookie, tells him to go to place, and he went to place, really good for her, and she has him lay down and gives him a cookie, and he did it really good for her today.
Good.
Nice.
And then that is working out much better. And then after she's here still, but because I'm getting my infusion right now, but after she, I have to lay on the bed, and then she does it, and has to set it up and poke me and everything. I had left the phone on the bed, and I asked Hodar to get my phone, not thinking he would, because he struggles with my phone. My son. He picked it up and handed it to me perfectly without having the pawing and the
nice
everything. So I didn't have the cookies or the treats right there, but we went and I said, you're getting a bunch of cookies. So he got cookies for that. So yeah.
We played with my phone a little bit in our tug game too, which he picks up and hands to me when he sees it drop all the time, but I really haven't worked on my hand signal or name of it, other than, maybe once in a blue moon, we'll have one training session where I'll use the name, or I have a hand signal where I can't get my hand to show up. But so I just kind of hold my finger out, almost like you're a kid and you're gonna hold it up to your ear. Yeah. And so I hold it up to Azul like that which is probably a different hand signal meaning something totally different among surf people, but but it works for Azul for the hand signal for my phone. Exactly. So if he doesn't see right away, I
Same
twist
can.
it. Exactly. But so that's my hand signal,
420.
and I haven't done it a whole
Oh,
heck of a
that
lot.
what it means too?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know it's a signal for something, but my dog sure doesn't know what it is.
Well, I think it isn't it hang loose?
It's hang loose, I think, too.
No.
Yeah, I don't
Underneath
know.
your towel, if you have a towel.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that that's what I came up with for the phone because I could remember it. And I really only have to cue him to get the phone if we're home.
Well,
So you set it down in a different room and he has to go find it. Because otherwise he sees it drop and he picks it up.
I'm sure your community is full of surfers.
Oh, yeah. We actually have one that surfs in Marquette in
A lot
the
of-
winter.
Skiers, I believe, surfers.
We have a wintertime surfer. If he wears a full, like really insulated wetsuit,
Probably wears a dry suit.
beard, and when he's in the water only like 5 minutes, his beard is frozen solid and icicles off of it. I'll have to find a picture to send you because it's funny to see him.
So
He's a winter
tonight,
surfer. But that's Marquette, and that's like 2 hours away from me.
tonight is about understanding focus. It means different things to different people, and we want to gain our dog's focus. It's one of the most challenging things for dog owners, as we probably all know, that they see squirrel, half-eaten hamburger. What else is on that? Christy, I don't remember what all they talk about.
Don't remember. I know what you're saying. I know where you're going.
And the
So-
fun thing about this particular week with focus is that while it's probably one of the most important of the confidences, you really can't get that unless you have all the other confidences we've been learning already in place. So you can't get the focus if your dog doesn't feel safe. You can't get the focus if you don't have a team kind of relationship where your dog is used to working with you. You can't get the focus if your dog, all of the other different things you can't get unless you have all the other confidences in place first.
What was it you said first? You can't have the focus with, what was the word?
Yeah.
Without your
Let me
dog
pull it up.
feeling safe and
So each week we have a different confidence, right?
Well, what was it you said?
Early in the classroom. So because there's 5 total. I'm opening up the classroom so I can list them. So just give me a minute.
Oh,
So the very first week we learned about the dog's need to feel safe. The second week we learned about their self-confidence, so their belief that they can make the right choice. And then we learned about teamwork, and then we learned about predictability. So those are the 4 weeks we've done so far.
Mhm.
Your
can
has
you
to have
repeat it
4
again?
of those.
Pardon me?
Your dog has to have all 4 of those before you can work on getting the focus around distractions.
Would you repeat it?
That's the hardest one.
Would you repeat it again?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's hard for me to see both screens at once, so I'm kind of juggling here. Oh, the very, very first lesson we learned is that in order for your dog to be confident, they need to feel safe in the environment you're in, right?
Mhm.
Second lesson was about, it's called self-confidence, but they have to believe that they are capable of making the right choices. So that doesn't mean they make every choice. That means they have to believe that they're capable of making decisions. It's like a self-confidence is what that one is. They believe in themselves to handle whatever
I've
situation.
noticed it. Is it good or bad? Do I need to worry about it?
Right. The next one is teamwork or their confidence in relationships. So dogs need to have at least one strong relationship in their life where they're very confident and comfortable in that relationship. Most dogs have more because it might be multiple people. It might be another dog in the house, or it might be a cat in the house, or whatever. But they need to have confidence in those relationships that are most important in their life. That leads to confidence in relationships with a stranger. And that relationship might simply be they're going to ignore that stranger, or they're going to go happily greet that stranger. You know, the relationships might be different, but the dog has to believe that they are capable of figuring out what the relationship calls for right now.
Is that relationship, is that something I need to respond to? Is it important, or is it something I can ignore? Like,
Right.
Nick barks, it's something Poe feels is important. When Nick barks, it's important enough for her to get up because her predictability is she's going to get cookies.
Right. So it's
So
easy
that's
the relationship one as teamwork, because that's really what we want, is our dog to know that they can read us.
right. So if
Our hand signals, they can communicate with us, they can tell us what they need, and we can tell them what they need.
and Poe knows her barking does not get cookies.
Right.
So she's trusted.
Ability is actually the next one,
Mhm.
the
Well-
one we just learned about, which is kind of where Cindy is going with Paul. Paul
Here,
is that the predictability, she's learned that when Nick does certain things, she gets cookies. Or when Ken comes over, she gets to do, whatever. Our dogs learn that predictability or that routine to daily life, like the nurse coming in and telling Hodar to go to a
Hodor
plate,
gets a cookie.
That's a predictability that he's learned. So that gives him confidence. So the confidence that we're learning about right now, which is the confidence to be able to handle distractions or focus on our person, our main handler, around distractions. In order to get that, in order to have that confidence, you have to have all the other four. If you're missing one of the other four, if you're not safe in the environment, if you're not able to predict what this environment calls for, if you don't have a good relationship with your handler, if you don't have those, you're not going to get the focus around distractions.
So like Nick is really struggling right now with focus because he can hold everything together and everything's great. And then he either has a moment where he feels like he's got to play or he's got to defend me. And he hasn't decided which it is. And then
so the predictability.
The outcome is the same either way, and he barks and lunges. And so I know what his predictable outcome is, and
but he hasn't predicted what's important for that time and place.
No, and he gets a timeout.
That's important, not yours.
And he gets a timeout for that because that behavior is completely unacceptable.
Right.
So I'm still struggling with, he's doing this before I have a chance. When is he going, I don't want to be the predictor of him jumping out because I didn't tighten the leash on him. I don't want that to be the predictor of, oh, I tightened the leash, so he's going to lunge.
Right.
But by the same token, I most often need to tighten the leash before he lunges so that he doesn't jump 3 feet into somebody.
Have you heard anything about P-Touch or the Teleton Touch?
I tried it with Poe and it did nothing for her.
Do you know about their leash maneuver?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna turn my background down so you can actually see my hands. Okay, so they have a leash maneuver. Let's see if I got something I can kind of use as a leash, almost. I have a tug rope thing here. I just gotta get it off my water bottle. So your particular leash maneuver, and you've demonstrated it before, you know, something's coming up, so you'll slide your hand down, tighten the leash, right? So there's a similar, but it's the opposite. Instead of sliding your hand down, you then use both hands and you stroke the leash. So you're going like this with the leash. So you're still keeping the leash tight, but you're not pulling on it like you would, so you don't cause that reaction. And whatever that feeling is, the way that the dog feels that stroke is supposed to be calming for them.
I'll have to try that.
Predictability. So Jen started doing that with Betsy when she was here, when I showed it to her. And that and the other thing we implemented, which was giving her a different reaction to do instead of barking and lunging, to say, hey, there's a person, you see that person, mom, right? You know, an alternate behavior to do. And so when we added those two things, it really, really helped Betsy. I don't know enough about it. I'm curious as to whether it'll help Nick. You know, Azul doesn't really have that issue. So
yeah, I mean, this is, you know, this is a big enough issue that I question him.
right.
But it's all because we've been struggling with it for so long. But
it happens much less frequently now than what it used to.
Some days.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's definite progress that's been made, but it's how quickly the progress is being made. And it's something that one way or another, it has to be addressed if he's going to be a pet or if he's going to be a service dog. It has to be addressed. It's not something, because a lunging dog like that should not be a lunging dog.
Right.
So I'm open to all suggestions. So I'll try that tomorrow.
Yeah, try it. And also just kind of think about what are your requirements of, you know, so obviously you don't want him to lunge, but how close do you expect him to get to certain distractions before he has an emotional reaction like that?
Well, it depends on, you know, if somebody walks around the corner and he's not expecting it, I don't want him to have an emotional reaction.
Right.
But, you know, I also don't want him
but
to
if you see it coming,
he's not
what's your
reacting.
distance there? Or he's not doing it at all when he sees it coming.
He's not doing it until somebody's really close.
Okay. So for a little while longer, maybe not indefinitely, but for a little while longer, as his brain is still finishing its maturing, prevent people from getting close as much as you possibly can. I mean, obviously, there's going to be that occasional come to a corner kind of thing, but you can like have him step behind you while you step out in front of the corner.
I do that. I have so many management techniques with him.
Yeah. So if you continue to apply the management a little bit longer, I think you'll probably see it extinguish more as he gets just slightly older.
I think so. I hope so.
You can also set up training sessions like with other people in your class or your trainer or, you know, somebody else, you know, where like surprising you at the corner, you know.
Well, you know, the thing
if Nick knows they're in the store to start out with, but then eventually get it to where like Nick doesn't even really know they're in the store, and then this random person pops out at him.
Well, one thing it's decreased significantly in class. Probably within the first 2 or 3 months, it decreased significantly in class, and so it's just so hit or miss, and I feel like he's stressed all the time. I feel like it's the environment where I live that's causing that issue.
That could be it too, with all of the pool and everything else.
Yeah, and it's worse in the summer than it is in the winter.
I would talk to your trainer about maybe she has ideas for other people that
I
she
have.
set up to pop out at you guys. You know, so people that she knows and people that are expecting his bark and lunge.
We
So
we do that
stranger
periodically.
in PetSmart.
We do that with the other employees, and
Yeah,
I mean, he lunged at the manager one day.
right.
Yeah.
Which I mean is
It was
bad if you're
PetSmart.
in a non-pet place, but you're at Petco, and if
Well,
the
he was-
manager knows you're working on it.
He was like, kind of shocked. What really shocked me was I didn't know he knew my dog by name.
Right.
I knew he knew my dog was in there all the time. I didn't know he knew my dog by name.
But it's good that he can have that kind of shock reaction, because that's like
Yeah.
real life, a person.
Well,
a
that
raised-
was the same day he lunged
have
at
the
Sarah
shock.
like that when Sarah walked by. And I know with Sarah, it was like, oh, I want to play. I want to play.
Right.
Because that's the reaction he gives her. But
And
anyways,
he's
let's
just
move.
getting to the place to be able to control his impulses.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Let's get on with this.
Yeah.
So we
So
now that we're talking-
distractions.
yes, now we're talking about all of this. There's all kinds of emotional states they can be in. And sometimes it's important to recognize the emotional state. Sometimes it's not. And if your dog's lunging and barking at other dogs, it's probably less important that you recognize the exact, whether it's fear related, anxiety related, or play related. The problem, the issue is the dog's lunging and barking, and you need to address what is going on and figure out how do we bring the excitement level down so we can deal with, because you're not going to be able to deal with the excitement level if it's up here. The emotion, if the excitement level's up here, you can't deal with the emotion. So you got to bring that down.
The only thing that I would watch for is if you think it is fear related, then you want to make sure that your training sessions, when you're involving it, are handled more delicately. You know, you want to make sure that the bucket's not full before you start the training session, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Whereas overexcitement, and you know it's overexcitement, you can push them a little bit harder to work on it. So I don't mean be more forceful. I just mean you can have those training sessions more frequently.
Or you can have more excitement
Yeah.
within the training session that you might not
Right.
otherwise. Like today, Nick had a tough time coming home because he had his ears done and his nails done, and he doesn't like that. And it's uncomfortable, and I wasn't in the room.
Yeah.
And
And
his bucket was full.
his
after-
bucket was full. He'd already had encounters with kids and holding dogs, and dogs urinating on stuff they weren't supposed to be urinating on. And because the handler didn't care that his dog was peeing all over the inside of PetSmart, didn't clean it up, and actually encouraged the dog to do it. So mild change, either way.
Question, Penny, what did you say about what do you do if it's a fearful state?
Well, when it's fearful, you have to address it much more slowly. So when your dog is afraid of something, you have to look back at that safety element. Remember, this particular distraction covers all the other confidences. And so if it's a fearful reaction, your dog's not feeling safe, which means there's certain things you can do to set up training sessions to be successful. You know, you can make sure they've had a couple of days of relaxing and calming activities leading up to it. You can work really hard to keep the whole training session at a calmer state. You can use extra high value treats because you're trying to counter condition and change their emotions to get rid of the fear, versus when it's an overexcitement.
Yeah, okay.
you can play with it a little bit more. You don't have to be so cautious. You don't have to make sure they have an empty bucket before you amp them up. You know, you
But
might
you may need
their bucket's too full, but you don't have to, since it's not fearful and the dog isn't concerned for their safety.
What is it? What if it's a
little more.
combo?
What?
What if it's a combo of excitement and fear?
It could be, but then you still have to kind of look at that safety element and what can you do to make them feel safe before you start the training
and
session.
what's happening with the excitement, because Nick can go from, oh, this, I'm here, I'm excited to be at agility, to, oh, I'm gonna bite my mommy because I'm so excited to be at agility in nothing flat. And so it's really hard to work him at a slow pace because he's so excited to be there. The trainer there wants him worked with treats and he's so excited to be there, he spits his treats out. So you have to work the dog in front of you, and if the dog is too excited, it doesn't matter what but if you have a little bit more leeway in that excitement zone with the dog
that isn't fearful,
that
that's
is
just
not
extra
fearful.
excited.
And so pretty much you don't want them in the red zone because then they're going to be over the top and unable to learn, and they're going to just be spitting, they're spitting treats, they can't control anything, they're going to get the zoomies in the middle of whatever you're doing, and you're just not going to be able to get through to anything.
Okay.
That's a good way to look at it, because if they're in, I think it goes yellow, orange, red on that, right? And it doesn't matter excitement or fear, it goes yellow, orange, red is bad. So you're not going to be able to get control of a dog very easily that's in red on either side of this, you know, happy or fearful. But the orange, you might be able to get control of them if it's an overexcited, or you might be able to talk them back down, or, you know, their brain hasn't totally checked out if it's an overexcitement, happy overexcitement versus a negative emotional orange. So when you're working with negative emotions, you have to try harder to keep them in that yellow zone or better. Whereas if you're working with happy emotions, you can push that orange zone just a little bit harder, usually. So, and I mean, I know we do a lot with emotions. I had to put that section in there because there could be people taking the class that don't know anything about emotions. So it's not a huge part for this, but if you've never done any kind of research with dog emotions, or don't even understand how they can move back and forth on that scale, you know, then you need that before you can move on to doing anything else.
It's a good refresher.
It is.
And then the desensitization it is to anything in the environment which can cause the animal to experience higher levels of fear or excitement. So this is something, this could be the deer running across the field. This could be the cat, the tiger chasing the dog. This could be just seeing the agility course. It could be
the nails getting cut.
The nails getting cut. It could be fireworks. And so you're getting them so that they can tolerate higher and higher levels. Now, some things with some dogs, like it may be impractical to completely desensitize your dog to fireworks. If there's only fireworks once a year at where you live, and it's only for a few hours, you might be better off just managing the situation and, you know, putting them in the bathroom in a crate with the crate covered with some anti-anxiety medication. Whereas if you live someplace where they have aerial fireworks for 2 weeks around the 4th of July and for a week at Christmas, and any excuse
New
to,
Year's and
yeah, any excuse
fairs
to
and
explode things, or if you are training a gun dog, then it's worth putting in the time and the effort to desensitize your dog to those sounds so that they can handle them and function in that level without, and like trimming their toenails, it's worth putting the time and effort into it. Counter
I actually have a firework and well, it's firework and thunderstorms. He's fine with thunderstorms, but I got a firework one and then another one for the shy gun dogs.
Mhm.
We have the loud noises or the gun shots around here too. And then my neighbors will set off fireworks a lot too.
Yeah.
So I did get those DVDs from the gun dogs supply company, I think it
Learberg
was.
or something.
Huh?
Learberg.
Mm-mm. No, gun dog.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best one I read about. I like that they did it. And then, so I want to start that, but you have to make sure that you're not doing it during the time that they're setting them off.
Right.
right.
So the desensitization is most commonly used to help a dog become more relaxed in the presence of something scary. So we do a lot of this. If you think about it, we do a lot of this with puppies. You take them to the scary monster store at Halloween to get them used to the scary monsters, or to the zoo to see what's going on at the zoo. There's a lot of things that you might need to do this with, or statues, anything. Counter conditioning is the process of changing an animal's emotional response to something in the environment that may be causing fear or overexcitement. Typically, this is done by delivering high-value reinforcement to the dog after they notice the object, but before they have a chance to react. Now, if they're overexcited in a positive way, like they're going to want to go run the agility course, you're going to do it a lot different than if they're overexcited because they see a bear in the background that's not going to come after them.
Right.
The bear situation, you might need to just remove the dog from where the bear is located. Yes, I said bear, but your name is not Polar Bear.
Yes.
No, that was one of her predecessors. You look like a polar bear. Okay. Anyways, she's like, just give me treats. I need to be counter conditioned for something.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on a Zoom call, give me treats. So it's
Thing
important.
with that is, go ahead.
So it's important that we learn how to read our dogs in the environment to see if they're getting uncomfortable. My philosophy, especially over the last year, is pretty much you're doing kind of the same thing with desensitization and counter conditioning. And if in doubt, give them a treat. And if you're trying to deal with very distracting things, give them high value treats, and get their focus back to like, and then up your criteria on doing as you're doing it so that they learn. So you're essentially doing, there's a distraction in the environment, we're going to mark it and we're going to treat it. We don't have to know what the distraction is. We just have to know that they're distracted by something.
Yeah. And that's just it. That's what I was going to say is with the confidence around distractions, there is no possible way that any dog, any person, any animal out there, I would dare say, could become desensitized to every possible distraction that could show up.
We jump at stuff that we know about.
Take for instance, well, yeah, that too, but so we don't have rattlesnakes in our area, but we have snakes. Rattlesnakes make a unique sound that the snakes here don't make. So hearing that sound would be something totally new for Azul if we went, say, out to visit Cindy or Arizona or something like that where they
Or
have red.
Christy. Christy has Mojave greens.
There is always going to be something in an environment that we didn't plan for, that we've never seen, that we've never trained around. So the confidence in distractions is building all the other ones so that they know that they're safe with us. They know that they can predictably do X, Y, Z to earn reinforcement, whether that's treats or play or, to go out of the environment where they're scared or something like that.
Matt,
But that's the overarching goal, is that sure, we may want to work on building confidence around some of their known triggers. For example, the thunderstorms. Cam used to be really, really, really bad with thunderstorms. And I worked with him a lot, and we basically changed his emotion. Now that he's getting older and kind of losing his brain, I see it coming back a lot. But part of that too was the fact that, like, we had Betsy here. Cam doesn't do well with other dogs. And I had my friend and her dog here for a little while. And so Betsy barked at him during a thunderstorm, and that kind of raised his anxiety level. So his bucket was fuller than normal. And now that she hasn't been here and we've had a couple of thunderstorms, I've been able to work with him enough to get him back into a place where he now remembers what his predictable routine is. And we had also had like several months of no thunderstorms because we don't have thunderstorms in the winter. So Betsy, anxiety driven, happened to come with the very first thunderstorm we had had in months. And it just kind of magnified. So the overarching goal of the lesson is that we teach them the skills they need to be able to rein it in no matter what distraction pops up. So now they feel comfortable in, oh, that's unusual. What does mom want me to do? And they can figure that out through feeling safe and predictability and all the other ones. That's why they all boil down into this one. So if we can master distractions, we can, and that predictable of what we want them to do when a new distraction shows up, like the tiger at the zoo, something like that.
yeah, my favorite one.
If we can teach them how to respond to those types of things and what we expect. Okay, you might be a little scared. What do we do when we're scared? Well, in Cam's case, when he's scared, he heals. The more scared he is, the closer his heel is. And so that lets me know that he's scared. So if we
His response was to get me out of there.
Right.
The quicker, and she worked very hard to do that very quickly.
Right. So if we can build into them what is acceptable to us and make it predictable. So Cam still actually takes that same approach when he smells a bear. So we do have bears here. We don't come across them very often. And Cam, to my knowledge, has really only had one traumatic event around bears. But because he was so triggered by dogs and men and other things, that we had practiced it so much in his triggers that now I can tell just from his simple body language that he smells a bear. And I know one is nearby or has recently crossed our path or might even be circling us or going around us, because A, his heel gets really, really tight. B, his anxiety bumps up a little bit, so he's more likely to whine a little bit. And he normally doesn't whine in heel, but if he's in the heel position and he's whining, there's something major, and it's not just that there's another dog. He doesn't just smell another dog. He doesn't smell a deer. He only does that for a bear.
Mm-hmm.
If you work on the confidences, like even doing the teamwork and the parkour, and I think it was just last week I added a wheelbarrow to my backyard parkour stuff. And it took him a little while to build up the confidence to actually climb into it. But it didn't take him that long because he trusts me in that act of, hey, this is something new. And that's why parkour can build their confidence, because they're like, all right, mom's not going to ask me to do this if I'm not capable. And it actually makes them that little bit more brave. You know, the willingness to try a little bit harder when something might be slightly scary.
Right, like I had Nick jumping on bags of feed at PetSmart today with the PetSmart trainer, who was having her dog do it as well. And it was interesting to watch Nick because he was, the first few times he was not quite sure if he should jump up on the feed because I had never let him jump up on a feed bag before. And so then he got to jump up on the feed bag. And then when I wanted him to put 2 paws up, he wasn't quite sure whether he should do that or not. But we got him, following directions and doing what he was supposed to. To the point where he actually got on one of the feed bags with, I think with Kathleen, with one of the other dogs, Kathleen, and who's his girlfriend. He is madly in love with Kathleen, like everybody else. And so he went up with Kathleen and just, said hello and gave her kisses, and she gave him kisses. And, but he's never been up on an obstacle like that with another dog, let alone a feed bag, which feels totally different because the feed shifts underneath their paws. So he gained some new confidences today because he had to go up on all these different levels and he had to do it with another dog. And, he had all these new things he added to his repertoire. Oh, crap. That was a soda.
Yeah, you just filled that up.
Yes, I did.
That's the kind of day I'm having.
Yeah, as I dropped the computer on the and close it.
Well, it didn't get on the computer at least.
No, it just got all over the carpet.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. I have a carpet cleaner. Well, so much for that. Anyways. So
I listed, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it gave him all kinds of new confidences that he didn't have before today. But, every dog is different. Every day is different. And you've got to be prepared for dealing with it. And what they're afraid of is going to be different from day to day.
Right. And based on environment and what you're doing.
Yeah,
So.
and I'm trying to get back to where I was. We should be familiar with our dog's body language. What, like Nick does a couple things that indicate he's really getting tensed up. He does this little dance with his feet where it's kind of like he's stomping his feet when he's upset or getting into trouble, or where he's amping up, and then he stares and he kind of lifts one foot and then he gets fixated. That's when I know that we're going to probably have an issue with lunging. So I try and keep that down lower so that he's not at that threshold level. It's important to know those things, what the stages are that they go through before they go over threshold, so you can interrupt and do something. Distance from the distraction cannot be emphasized enough, because sometimes, you don't want to necessarily do something. You don't want to real close to the distraction, because if you're right up next to the distraction, they're going to be upset. And so you want to start back a ways and work forward before and stop before they go over threshold. So you may not move more than an inch with what.
A good thing to remember with your people popping around out the corners. Somebody's gonna run past the aisle at the end of the aisle, and you can stop Nick back 3 feet, 10 feet, however
you
far
can
back,
turn around and go the other direction
and just stay there and wait for this person to pop out and go away, pop out and go away, pop out and go away.
And this
could slowly get him up closer.
This can be where you practice A to B skills, where you practice the, just going back the other way, getting out of their figure eights, U-turns, whatever you
Yeah.
do.
That kind of takes us into the games section. And I don't think we need to talk a lot about the games because we're all game pros here. So it wasn't that any one of those games is like the end all be all, you've got to play this game or you've got to do this game.
Well, I want to just put out there about the value of distraction marker, because you
Well-
brought it up earlier. This is something I find incredibly helpful with Nick. Because the more you practice it, the more you get that response automatically. So the more you practice it and the more you get that response, the easier it is when they're in a high distraction environment to have that automatic response to turn back.
Right.
And if you're dealing with a dog that has a focus issue or a confidence issue, then returning back with that confidence marker, it can't be overdone. The other thing, or attraction or distraction marker, the other really good thing to have as a distraction marker if your dog is on leash a lot is to have a
I'm like,
leash pressure distraction marker. So that if the dog just gets even the slightest bit of pressure on it, you mark it and you say, you mark it and you reward. And
Right.
so that way they stop thinking in terms of lunging hard against whatever they're lunging against. And I've noticed since I've been doing that with Nick, his frustration with the the gentle leader has increased significantly. I think that's part of his issue today was he was extremely frustrated because he's back wearing that full time. And I mean full time. And so he's constantly trying to get it off because he knows he can't respond the way he wants to with that on. And so even though I don't jerk him around by it, that he has control over how much pressure is applied just to him based on what he does in response to the gentle leader. But having that distraction marker, I use and did he? No, he stayed chewing. That's fine. But I use that noise with him, and then he comes out, he turns towards me and comes back and gets his cookie. And it's important to have them come back to you to get that cookie.
I haven't worried too much about that only because I'm in low distraction environments. The things that actually distract Azul are few and far between. It's other dogs.
It's bears and
Top one. Well, bear don't distract Azul. I don't know that he's ever seen or would even notice a bear. That's Cam that distracts them. It's distracted by the bear. There is an occasional just, new smell, a smell that he hasn't smelled before coming in on the wind that will distract him a little bit. But I can get focus on that with just a simple cue and reminding him to either focus or saying his name or something like that. So the only place where I really have an issue is typically other dogs. And so even like today where he was at the fence and I knew he saw or smelled something or heard something, he was still trying to figure out what it was. So I was pleased with him being totally off leash that he did his look, but that's why I've only conditioned it to be a when you hear it, check in with me.
right.
Because I don't use it very often, and I'm not in high distraction environments where I need it.
Well, and it
If
also depends
more often, I would work on it harder.
it also depends on your dog, because if you have a dog that's pretty mellow and it's like, yeah, whatever, like Poe is most of the time, you don't need to worry about it as much. Poe doesn't have a distraction marker. Nick has a distraction marker. Nick is
Right.
very different, very very prey motivated dog. He wants to go after birds and squirrels and cats, and you take him to PetSmart and you show him where the guinea pigs are, and he wants to catch the guinea pigs.
See, Azul just wants to get close enough to watch them and smell them, which is gladly do from 5 feet away.
Nick will pounce on the
but that's
cage
it.
if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's important to know your dog, and but if you have a dog that has distraction, that is easily distractible, or high prey drive, it's worth noting that that can be something that's a super helpful skill to have, or
Right.
tool to have in the tool shed, to see if that makes, how much of a difference that makes for them. I noticed today that how much of a difference when we were following Kathleen, and I can't think of her name now. It's with an H, it's a Japanese word, and I know that helps a lot. I want to say Hikari, but it's not Hikari. It's not Takara. Anyways, when we were following them around, Nick was like, yeah, okay. He was so calm compared to what he normally is with those two. And he wants one to be his girlfriend, and one already is his girlfriend. So it's it's important. For some dogs, it's a more important tool than other dogs, but it's good to know about, because what you're doing with this dog may be totally different than what you do with your next dog.
That's why I say it's not those specific games that are the end all be all. It's the idea of games in general and how you can incorporate that to build more excitement for you than the distraction. So the games that I play with Azul are very different than the games Cindy plays with Nick. It doesn't matter what those games are. What matters is the dog's enjoyment of the game, and having those games built in, and have something ready and, in your toolkit that you can pull out and play one of their favorite games when they see a distraction that's particularly enticing or stealing their focus away.
Right. Like right now, Poe wants to play I'm drip feed on the mat, and Nick is trying to figure out how to get drip feed on the mat. He knows how to get it, but he's kind of like, wait, how come she's getting this and I'm not? Because normally he gets something drip fed when he comes and stands by me, because he got ice cream and she didn't. So different dogs, different rules.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm just gonna say that with Hodar, he used to do really good when we were out with the different animals and stuff. He just acted like they'd never existed. There'd be cats walking around in the pet store, one pet store, and then two, there was like cats loose walking around, and one cat went next to him and was just standing there next to him while we were checking out the dog food or dog kind of treat food stuff, and then he acted like it didn't exist, and it's right next to him. And then in Mart, I walked him by the cats and the critters and the different things, and he doesn't seem interested at all. But
different dogs are different, and they're different at different points in their lives. Like Penny
now,
was saying with Cam and the thunderstorms.
Yeah, but now, and then also at my friend's, he ignored her cat there at my friend's house. But now at home, Luna now she is very prey driven towards cats and barks and tries to lunge towards the cats and has taught him that.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he will now be that way out in public if he sees one. I'm hoping it will.
Their list of distractions definitely changes.
Yeah,
throughout life.
yeah,
Cats are an unusual one for Azul because he doesn't want to mess with them, but he wants to watch them. So if I'm trying to lead him away and encourage him to go the opposite direction of a cat, then he's more likely to, either want to pull to the cat or refuse to go or something like that. But if I let him just sit and watch and he realizes, oh yeah, the cat's doing its own thing, then he can go do his own thing too. If it comes really close, then he's usually moving back because he doesn't want to get close to a cat.
yeah. And
He's
Nick, it just depends
growl and
on
bark at him.
Nick. It just depends on the day and what's going on. Poe pretty much doesn't care unless it's Tiger. So I think we've covered everything for this,
Except for the homework,
except for the homework, which I didn't look
which is a
at.
really easy one. It's create a list of 1 to 5 of your dog's top distractions. Doesn't matter how many you are. I mean, if you really want to list 10, you could do
Squirrel.
but create a list of some of the top ones. So 1 to 5.
So you can go listen to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast opening, and it will give you a list of 5 things.
Right. So
Half-eaten
then
hamburgers.
think about the
squirrels.
environments that those distractions are most likely to be found in.
What else were they do they talk about fox poo?
I think so. Hodor's is noise. I know one of it
Look
is
at the environment that those distractions are most common in, because we can't always control the distractions that come at us in the world.
Yeah.
What we often can control is the environment surrounding the distraction.
Now, are you talking in the home or outside?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Are they going to find
you choose? So your top 5 distractions, think about the environments those are going to be in, and some of them might be at home and some of them might be out and about. It might be a mix. That doesn't matter. So what you want to look at is what can you do to build up. So you start in an environment that's, you're going to run into that distraction, but you're going to run into it at a further distance, at a lower number. So if it's cats, for example, if you're using cats as the example, the end goal might be you want to walk your dog through the cat section at either a pet store or an animal shelter or something like that. I mean, that's an extreme, and I'm using that extreme for a purpose.
Oh,
I do that on a daily basis.
I think he's okay because I've taken him to the animal shelter, and they have a whole wall where they have the cats there, and the cat was trying to play with him through the little glass window.
Are these cats for flambe, or are they?
So I'm just using cats as a general kind of
Are they
idea.
So
if that's your end goal, that one day you want them to be comfortable in the animal shelter environment, seeing these cats and dogs, that's definitely not where you start in your training session. So that's the importance of the homework, is look at how you can back up to an environment where maybe you're only going to see one cat. And it's a predictable cat, it's a friend's cat or a neighborhood cat you see all the time.
Yeah, that's not mine right now. Mine is more of the noise or the people at the door and stuff like that.
It could be the 4th of July fireworks. It could be it could be the squirrel in the tree outside your window. It could be the Mojave green on your lawn. It could be
not having any of that.
Right.
It could be the
and so if noise is your distraction, and it's just noise as a whole, so Your end goal might be that you can expose your dog to, say, a parade that has gunshots and drums and whatever kind of thing. That's the end goal. But you're going to start in an environment where you're only exposing to one noise at a time. You know, you're not going to hit them with everything. You're not going to jump to the end. So the homework idea is to look at a way that you can control the environment in a way that you can help your dog to be successful, so that the dog can build up that confidence in saying, yes, I can be successful around noises. Yes, I can be successful around cats. Or yes, I can be successful when a person pops out at the end of the aisle. That's the goal of the homework. What is your steps? Where can you start? And if you really want to take it up the next step, plan out a couple. Okay, we're going to start in this environment. So it might be at home, but then we're going to transition to this environment at a slow time of day when we know there's going to be a distraction, but there's not going to be, you know, there's not going to be 100 dogs running around. There's going to be 1 or 2 dogs running around, you know, that kind of thing. So if you want to plan a couple of different environments, you know, so that your baby's stepping it up like a shaping plan, you can do that. But the goal is look at your distractions, look at their most common environments, and then pick a starting place for each distraction you put in your list. Where am I today? Where is my first training place for this particular distraction? And that might be at home with your CDs. You know, that's the really only importance of the homework, is that you're thinking about it. It's not actually doing it. It's the actual creating the list and thinking about how you can set up the environment to allow your dog to be successful around that distraction.
Okay. Maybe Cindy,
Builds confidence.
not looking very good today. Friday, can you help me a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, if I'm home. But
Tomorrow's Friday.
I know. I
Yeah,
haven't.
I've got, yeah, we can make it work. Just let me know.
Okay.
All right, so actually that we hit it, just, my timer just went off for the 1 hour.
Nice.
So
And
I'm
we
gonna
actually
stop
made it all the way
recording.
through. I thought we'd only make it halfway.